Hi everyone, it's Kino here. Thanks so much for joining me on this 30-day Ashtanga Yoga Challenge. I just want to take a moment and congratulate you for sticking to it. I know it's hard to keep coming back to the mat, and you may have missed a day here or there. It's not a problem. You can always go back and review some of the videos. You can just jump in at any time. So, before we get started on today's Yoga Challenge pose of the day, two things. First of all, thank you so much for all your comments. It really means a lot to me. Thank you when you share your applause and you share the badges and you let me know that you are enjoying this challenge with me. I'm here because you inspire me to keep sharing this method of yoga. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Second, this is super important. The yoga practice is not just a physical practice. It's not only yoga asanas. If you focus too much on yoga asanas and the physical attainment of the poses, then you can be thinking that yoga is just, you're just scratching the surface of what yoga is. Asana is a tool, a doorway that leads you into the experience of true and deep self-knowledge. The inner experiences of yoga, the cultivation of a calm, quiet, meditative mind, and an open, deep experience of the heart center. This is where the magic of yoga happens, at the unique intersection between mind, body, and spirit. Now, when you think about the amazing experience of the potential of yoga, this is a practice that I want to inspire you to have for your entire life. So not just one practice here or there, not just one time, one and done, but I want you to think of this as a lifelong relationship so you really can see how these benefits of the yoga practice, of a calm mind, an open heart, and a healthy body can all really start to just become real. So you need patience, you need determination, you need dedication, devotion over many years of practice. And of course, the Ashtanga yoga method is a classical or traditional form of yoga, that comes from India, where my teachers are. So I learned this method of yoga from my teachers in Mysore, which is in the south of India, and I've been going back and forth there for over 20 years. So whatever I'm sharing with you, I really just take a moment and honor my teachers who came before me and their teachers who came before them, and the entire cultural history of India, which is the reason that each of us have the practice of yoga today. Okay, so here we go. Now we're in the Ashtanga Yoga seated poses, and now we begin to work on the Half-Lotus position. The Half-Lotus position in the Ashtanga method is called Ardha Gada Padma Paschimottanasana, half-bound lotus pose plus the forward bend. So when we do this together, there are two movements, at least two movements, many movements that are happening, but the two major movements are external rotation of the half-lotus position and the fold forward of your body moving forward. So we have these two movements, forward bend and external rotation, that we need to sync up together. So just to review, we're going to start off today with Dandasana and Paschimottanasana, just to make sure that you have a good, solid forward bend technique in place. So Dandasana, hands next to the hips. If you need a little object to sit on, today I have my meditation cushion. So corner of like a little cushion like that to give you a little bit of a better lift for your Dandasana position, and you can do it. If you don't need it, just slide on off, no problem. So you really, again, want to find your version of Dandasana position. We'll take 5 breaths, deep yogic breathing. So remember that deep resonant breath with sound. You're drawing the navel in, you're lifting up along the spinal axis. We'll stay here for 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. Good. Now fold forward, taking any variation of Paschimottanasana that works for you, sitting on the cushion if you need, using the strap, bending your knees as you like, holding your ankles or maybe the big toes. Draw the navel in. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, fold. And let's go easy on the forward bend. So if you need to do a few sun salutations to warm up, or if you feel relatively warm, now let's remember the key principles of the forward bend technique. All right, we're going to elongate the back muscles, pivot inside the hip joints. And then feel that the sitting bones are moving away from the heels, and we'll stay here for 5 breaths. You can tuck the head under like this, or if you're a little bit higher, you can gaze forward at the toes. Watch your neck and don't pull too hard with the arms, okay? 1, 5 breaths. 2, nice and easy. 3, 4, 5. That's good. Inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale here. Release. Back to Dandasana. Let's cross the feet. Let's just take a chaturanga, up dog, down dog. So you're going to slide over, step your feet back, find your plank pose. Exhale, chaturanga. You can come all the way down, point the feet, roll the shoulders back. Inhale, upward facing. So this is upward facing dog. Try to soften the butt muscles. You can sink the knees down for an easy transition through tabletop. And then all the way up to downward dog. 5 breaths in the downward dog. 1. Nice and easy. 2. 3. Deep breathing. Draw the navel in. Remember the bandhas. So we did that tutorial on activating the muscles of the low belly to engage deep breathing with sound. So do that in every practice. 4 and 5. Let's switch the gaze forward. Cross your shin bones, point the knees between the hands, and then exhale. Let's come on down to seated. Straighten out the legs. Okay, I'm going to turn towards you this way so that you can really see what's happening in regards to the external rotation of the hip joints. We're going to start with the right side. First, it's a simple technique. Close your knee joint. When you close your knee joint, this prevents any torque or twist in the knee. If the knee joint is open, then when you try to get into half-lotus position, the knee could potentially twist or torque a little bit. All right, so we want to minimize that as much as possible. Okay? So now, when the knee joint is closed, then drop your knee out to the side. Then your hip joint has now gone into external rotation. If your knee is elevated, this means that the hip joint has not really gone into such a deep external rotation. We'll address that in a moment, but first, let's just go through the lotus position. Now, when the knee points out to the side, to get into lotus position, we need to do 2 things. We need to pull the foot up into the belly, and we need to orient forwards. Right now, the pelvis is also a little bit open. In Ardha Baddha Padma, Paschimottanasana, then the forward bend is very firmly established and is, a good portion of the posture. So let's see if we can work on that. Check in with your knee, make sure there's no pain on the outer edges of the knee. If there's any pain in the knee, please back off, and I'll show you some modifications after we go over this lotus technique, okay? Then you're gonna hold onto your knee and your ankle, keeping the knee joint closed, pick it up. Try to keep the foot and the knee at the same height, and then this is important, turn forward, all right? That's important. See I'll go through that again, all right? Dandasana position, close your right knee joint, and drop it out to the side. Keeping the knee joint closed, hold under the knee and grab your ankle, turn your pelvis and your knee forward. Relatively simple. You're not done yet. So now, this foot is gonna have a lot of pressure until it's in the ideal lotus position. 2 things. Demi-point your foot. So can we see that? So my foot went from soft to demi-point. Same thing I'm doing with this foot, which means I'm reaching out through the ball of my right big toe, not big foot, my left big toe. Then, this helps energize the ankle, which prevents any sickling of the ankle. Still not done with the lotus position. Now I'm going to hold the shin bone. I'm going to hold on to the little hook created by that little demi point, and then I'm going to draw the foot into the pelvis. Now, the instep of my right foot is resting on the very upper edge of the left hip crease, creating kind of a nice floor for that foot. Now you'll notice that my right knee is off the ground. Under no circumstances do you ever want to push your knee to the ground. Instead, when you engage in the forward bend, if your knee wants to go to the ground, it will. If your knee naturally goes to the ground, great. If the knee is pointed very high up, probably an indication that you do not want to fold forward, and you could just remain seated like this, supporting the knee from underneath. Okay, I'm going to show you how to complete this posture, and then we'll go over the modifications on the other side. So if this feels really intimidating and far beyond your potential, don't worry, I've got you. Just stay tuned, and we'll go over the modifications on the other side. All right, now, if the knee points forward, everything feels good, then you're going to drop your right shoulder forward to watch that internal rotation. Remember which other poses up until this point in the practice have used the internal rotation. Prasarita Padottanasana C, wide leg forward bend, okay? And also hands in prayer behind the back. And from yesterday, Purvattanasana, reverse plank. So we continue internal rotation of the shoulder joint. Then, feeling that internal rotation of the shoulder joint articulated, you can reach around and hold on to your foot. If you start to twist your spine To try to get that grip connected, you might lose a little bit the internal rotation, you might lose a little bit your lotus. So I'm gonna let go of the bind and emphasize that forward direction. Make sense? Even if the bind is not there. Because here's a little trick. Let me show you this from the side. Let's say you cannot bind. You have really worked your shoulder, and the only way to potentially hold on to your foot is we'll talk about any modifications in a moment, but let's say here you are and you feel close, but you're gonna have to turn your torso to get that bind, and once you turn the torso, you cannot come back to the front. So then you decide, okay, I'm just gonna leave my chest forward, you activate that left leg so it's really moving into the strong forward bend position, and then you draw the navel in and up and lift the ribs over, and then did you see what happened to the hand? I'll show you again. Watch the hand. All right. Without any change in my shoulder position, the mere act of folding forward itself brings the hand closer to the foot. So this is pretty much an easy way to then take the bind without necessarily disturbing the balance of the shoulders. Now, to prepare for the posture, inhale, prepare, deep breath in, drawing the navel in, and then exhale, fold the rib cage. So you have to lift the rib cage over the thigh to fold forward. All right, so I'll show you again from the front if we're here. Inhale, prepare, and so now you can see the shoulders are square, the hips are square, my chest orients to the left knee because this is the forward bend, this is the Paschimottanasana section. So inhale, prepare, deep breath in, be careful not to deviate over to the side, and when you fold forward, you keep lifting with the muscles of the low belly over so that the chest is centered to the knee. The hand grip around the foot is not the big toe for this one, but is on the outside of the foot. This helps you use the traction of your fingers to keep the foot, the sole of the foot, very activated. And when you fold forward, you have to draw the navel in as much as possible, and then use your lotus foot to kind of press into the inner space of the pelvis. And when you do that, there's a cleansing action that happens as the heel is pressing into the organ system. Yes, the organ system is getting a cleanse. Inhale, straighten the arm, exhale here. Come all the way up. Exit the posture in the same way that you enter it. Out to the side, back up, straighten. If it's very tense in the knee, you can give it a little movement like that, all right? Now, especially since we hold the posture for some period of time, it is recommended to cross your feet and find your way back to that plank pose. So you find your plank. Exhale, chaturanga, or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing, big breath in. Exhale, easy, downward facing. Stay for 2 breaths. Press through the legs. And then cross the feet, come on down to seated, and straighten out the legs. Okay, I'm gonna get my hair out of the way. Now, let's say that lotus position is not accessible for you. What are you gonna do? Sometimes that deep bend in the knee is just not available. All right, first, you might find that you cannot close the knee joint. If you cannot close the knee joint, then you can bring something nice and soft and bring it out to the side and sit in that number 4 shape. So if we remember from the standing pose, the number 4 shape is a good sort of modification to do to help get you a little more external rotation in the hip joint. The number 4 shape brings the knee a little forward, which is different than the open knee position, which brings the knee a little out. So you can sit in the number 4 shape. Now, let's say that your forward bend is also challenged. When you sit in the number 4 shape, you're super rounded. Well, then you want to use your friend, a yoga block. And then you're going to sit on that cushion and get a nice good position. And I think maybe the end of the cushion. Then you get your number 4 shape and glide that yoga block in, and you can put the yoga block underneath. What I really recommend in sitting in the number 4 shape is that potentially it's not advised to fold too much forward. Really be sensitive of your knee, and then maybe you can just lightly bend forward. You could take your right hand or even both hands on the ground and just stabilize the posture. And this is a wonderful way to work the external rotation of the hip joint without stressing the knee. If you'd like to see that from the front, I can turn towards the front so you can see this option as well. So seated on, we have our Dandasana position. You cannot close the knee joint, so you externally rotate, protecting the knee by giving it a floor underneath. And then you can either simply remain upright, or if you want to pivot a little forward, you can take both your hands down. If you're sitting in the number 4 shape, I recommend maybe don't try to hold your forward foot. It might provide a little too much pressure or stress on the knee. So this is another option that you can do for the seated half lotus position. Let's talk about some other options that might be somewhere in between. So let's say you're moving into the posture. You can close your knee joint. You can drop it to the side, but it doesn't go too much down, which means that when you bring your lotus up, the knee is very elevated. And even though you try to close the knee joint and bring it in, it won't go. So the foot sits in the center of the thigh all the way up here rather than up here in the hip crease. Well, you can still demi-point your foot. You can grab that yoga block and put it underneath, and then you can use the assistance of a strap. Take the strap and make sure it's a nice big grip, and then just hold on to the strap. And then either you can take your hand to your ankle or you can take your hand to your foot. Using the strap helps you square your shoulders so that when you fold forward, there's not too much torque or twist over to the side. So you want to really think about, again, that your whatever assistance that you need in order to enter the posture helps you find the good, healthy alignment. And healthy alignment will always feel good in the body. It will feel like it makes sense and it should relieve a little bit of pressure or burden, all right? So let's go over that again, that last one. So let's say here you are in the Dandasana position. You close the knee joint, it works out well, out to the side, but it doesn't go to the floor, so you pick it up and move it over. Place the block underneath to give it a little support, and you can choose what's better, there or there. You reach around the back, but it's just too far. So when you fold forward, even when you fold forward, it's too far. So you can see from the side in this version. When I reach around the back, it's just too far. So then at this moment, this is the appropriate time to use a strap. You don't have to use a fancy strap like this. It can also just be a towel that you wrap around, and then this will allow you to bend forward. Still, you want to think about lifting the rib cage over as much as possible. Stay for about 5 breaths. When you come out of the posture, the same level of integrity, out to the side, bring it up and straighten, okay? So you can see that this technique is the same technique, just broken down. Exhale, fold. I'm gonna stay for a couple breaths on your version. This is the same technique, so you just find the version that works for you. Stay for a couple more breaths and draw the navel a little bit in. Almost there. Where's the gaze? Either at the nose or forward to the toes. Then inhale, prepare. Exhale. Slowly come out. Remove your foot, cross your feet, and you can step back, nice and easy. Find your plank pose. From plank, exhale, chaturanga. Upward facing. Exhale, downward facing. Then come on back down to seated. Cross your feet and come on to seated. So in lotus position, what do you want to watch out for? Grabbing onto the foot and twisting the knee. So this is a big one that people do. They grab onto the foot and then the knee twists. So instead, when you close the knee joint, drop it out to the side, you protect the knee. Second thing to watch out for is any pressure, definitely sharp pain around the edges, corners, or inside of the knee. If that happens, you want to back off completely and go for a modification. Don't be afraid to grab that block, grab that bolster, elevate the hips a little bit to make the posture a little more accessible. The other thing to worry about or think about, not really worry about, but to think about is that, say you get into the posture and then when you come out, if you just throw your leg out, then you might not be protecting the knee. So remember, if you got into the posture with a lot of integrity, then exit the posture with the same level of integrity, and you'll be on your way to building a good, solid lotus position. Half lotus position is an extremely important posture when you're working on that external rotation of the hip joints. So you can think about some other things outside of your practice that will assist your, your practice of half lotus. You can do what I'm doing right now, which is sitting on the floor. Sitting on the floor, while it appears to be doing nothing, is actually a really great tool to help your hip joints open. Every time you get up and down from the floor, this brings a kind of dynamic flexibility into the hips. Additionally, the act of sitting on the floor creates a little bit of natural external rotation of the hip joints. So I recommend to sit on the floor. as much as possible. I grew up sitting on the floor. You don't know this about me. I'm part Japanese, and we grew up sitting on the floor. So I think this is maybe one of the reasons why at least the external rotation was one of the first things in my body to open. That being said, even though I could sit comfortably on the floor, the first time I tried to do deep yogic external rotations, like putting my leg behind my head, that was not easy, and that goes far beyond the scope of what our video is for today. So don't worry, I'm not going to be asking you to put your leg behind your head anytime soon, unless you keep practicing, and then there's something fun for you coming on the horizon of your yoga practice. So this was the tutorial for today's challenge pose of the day. Remember, we are accumulating some challenge poses, and as soon as we get through a few more of the seated poses, we're going to have another full-length practice. So please stay tuned, please subscribe, please stay a part of the community, leave me your comments, and do something really fun today. I want you to comment on each other's journey. So if you see someone else in the comments that's like, hey, I'm really enjoying the challenge, comment back to them and say, hey, me too. And remember to share whether you're an Ashtanga newbie or whether you've been practicing for a while. I really like to see particularly where you are on your journey, because that helps me just understand kind of if this challenge is helping you and where you are on the journey of practice. Lastly, I want to invite everyone to listen to my podcast, which is free and available where podcasts are, whether you go onto the Apple podcast experience or whether you do Spotify or any other places where podcasts are available. But check it out, and you can hear me chat about yoga if you want to hear me chat more than I've already been talking your ear off in this video. And with that, everyone, I'll just send you a lot of love and wish you a really, really good practice today, and hope these tips are really helpful in your practice of the half-lotus position. And I will see you tomorrow as we continue this journey. Okay, everyone, lots of love.